So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, good afternoon to those who are joining us from other parts of the world. My name is Aliva, and I welcome you to this exciting session on Design for Better World at Colloquy 2022. I was introduced to the world of design and what it can do to our work in development sector very recently by Professor Whitney and Andre from Harvard's D-Lab. On the panel today has opened a whole new world of possibilities. I have professionally applied my newfound insights tools to design a program for women enterprises. It has been so very effective. So to our dear participants from development sector, government sector, this session is going to fundamentally alter our ways of thinking, planning, and most importantly, doing. A new errand to the world of design, I did what most of us would do, was to Google. There's such a proliferation of content, books after book. The session passes the Google test of relevance and salience and also the Netflix test. There's some very good watch for you. The session, to put it pithily, will answer what good is design if not designing for good. The session will deepen our understanding of the application of the art and science of design and also to uninitiated and excitement to explore. Going with the theme of this year's colloquy, its focus on future, or future doing, not just thinking. What we could do to design a world with planet and people at the center, anchored around sustainability, inclusion, equality, equity, and justice, so that each one of us can have peace and prosperity. Our terrific panel brings thought leaders who have lived the world of design, applied it to big success, are the forefront of teaching and developing the discipline of design and practitioners. I would now like to welcome Mr. Sam Pitroda. He's a household name in India. His work has made better for each one of us. So I will leave the usual intro for our colloquy session page. Blessed to have you, sir, here. In the 80s, Sam transformed India's development thinking and policies, bringing focus on the access to technology as the key to social change. He has been a lead campaigner to bridge the global digital divide. And to some of us in the development sector, it may come as a surprise that he's the founding chairman of 5 not-for-profit organizations, including the India Food Bank, the Global Knowledge Initiative, and the Institute of Transdisciplinary Health. His interest is what to us as a TRIF is an ideal whole of society building. A very warm welcome to the globally renowned, respected development thinker, policymaker, and entrepreneur, Mr. Sam Pitroda. Joining Sam is Patrick Whitney. Patrick is a professor in residence at the Harvard T-Chan School of Public Health. His long list of illustrious work, publications, lectures on link between design and business strategy, and methods of designing interactive communications and products, human-centered design is on the internet. We'll urge you all to look up at it. Believe me, when they are illuminating and have wisdom for ages. What excited us about Patrick's new framework of design is its response to 3 transformation linking insights about user experience to business strategy, the shift from mass production to flexible production, and the shift from national markets to markets that are both global and markets of one. You would particularly like to see some of his work at the Institute of Design, global companies in local markets designed for the base of pyramid, and the schools in the digital age, and such like addressing contemporary and future development challenges. He's an Indophile with deep interest in building better society, so it shouldn't surprise you as he's a trustee of Global Heritage Fund, which supports the restoration of heritage sites and local communities in the developing world. In Rajni Bakshi, we have an inspiration always nudging us to be a better version of ourselves as society. She has founded the Ahimsa Conversation for reflections on the nature of violence and the possibilities of nonviolence. You must not miss this. The channel has 232 videos, which include 108 conversations with speakers from 24 countries. Rajni is a public intellectual, author, and regular columnist in mainstream media, prolifically writing on social and political developments in contemporary India. It's difficult to pick a book for mention, all of them so pertinent to our society. You can find them on our introduction page. But if I had to pick 3, I would specifically recommend you to read Bazar's Conversation on Freedom for a market culture beyond greed and fear, Bapu Kuti, Journeys in the Rediscovery of Gandhi, which among the others inspired the Hindi movie Swadesh, and well, who doesn't love Shah Rukh, and an Economics for Wellbeing. These will stimulate you, enthuse you, and encourage you. Thank you, Rajni, for being a guiding light. Anirban Ghosh is the co-founder of Transforming Rural India Foundation, has a very tough job. Colloquy is not just an idea fest. It's all about becoming better at doing. So as he brings perspectives from his over 3 decades of grassroots and leadership in the development sector, we will hear him say how TRIF intends to apply the art and science of design for rural well-being and opportunity. And lastly, the host for this terrific panel is Andre Nogueira. Andre is the co-founder and deputy director of the Design Laboratory at the Harvard T-Chan School of Public Health. He's the one you would go to when thinking of design for development. Wisdom beyond his years, he just knows what needs to be done and how you can. Each one of us can apply design frameworks and methods to improve the well-being of people, organizations, and the ecosystems. Naturally, he was in the first 40 under the 40 Public Health Catalyst Awards by the Boston Public Health Congress. This global citizen is from Brazil, so gets the Indian context like duck to water. Andre has led entrepreneurial initiatives in the corporate world on sustainability competence. Senior executives and leaders in the public sector is interested in building design capacity within the organizations and with academic institutions in the US and Brazil, building design laboratories that extend the capacity to bridge theory and practice through cross-sectoral partnerships. You're the kind of leader you would expect the Indian Design Lab to have. Now, before I hand over to Andre, the few housekeeping rules. One is please post your question and answer in the Q&A session. This being an 1 hour duration webinar, we will try to accommodate as many questions as possible. Over to you, Andre.
Good morning and good evening, everyone. It was great to be here. A privilege to be able to engage and talk to this great panel. I would like to start diving deeper into it and asking Sam, tell me a little bit about your book and what's the main message there, Redesign the World.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Andre. Greetings to everyone from Chicago. It is indeed a special honor and privilege for me to be a part of a distinguished panel like this. Patrick has been an old friend for over 30 years, and I'm delighted to be with him. Rajini, Arinban, and Andre, thank you for the opportunity. Andre, I strongly believe that hyperconnectivity offers great opportunity to redesign our world. For the first time in the human history, we are all connected. All 8 billion people are connected. What does this connectivity mean to human civilization? We are connected in a very special way, where information is democratized, implementation is decentralized, and many services are being demonetized. It is about content, curation, communication, and context. It can enhance collaboration, cooperation, co-creation. And hyperconnectivity is not just about internet. It is about a whole lot of technologies related to AI, robotics, payment, blockchain, big data, analytics. And it is today only being used for productivity and efficiency. There is nothing that I know of today that is not being affected by hyperconnectivity. Education, health, distribution, delivery, markets, products. I think we need to pay more attention to using hyperconnectivity to change our politics, change our democracy, change our economy, change our social fabric. And that's where I think hyperconnectivity can help us redesign everything. Justice, freedom, human rights. And we are all becoming new digital citizens. So the key to redesigning the world is to really understand what is the design we work with today. You know, the world was last designed at the time I was born in 1942. I was born in British Raj. And that design was created by a handful of people, which gave birth to UN, World Bank, IMF, NATO, WTO, GDP, GNP. And that design was basically focused on democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, and military. I believe this design doesn't work anymore in a hyper-connected world because everybody is being empowered. People's aspirations have changed. Then world was colonized. Now world is decolonized. China has been able to rise to a level no one thought. Soviet Union fell apart. 9/11 changed American mindset. Technology has been pervasive, democratized. It has created inequality. And finally, 9/11 or COVID basically has brought a new dimension to all of this. COVID says we are all interconnected, interwoven, interdependent, interrelated. So we really need to look at a new design, which is, according to me, more focused on inclusion, basic human needs, new economy. Capitalism is not the answer. It's a good thing, but it has really created huge amount of inequality. We need to really look at conservation and sustainability, and ultimately what Rajni talks about, non-violence. These are the new parameters of the design. When I look at world today, I'm convinced that everything is focused on power and profits. When people at G20, G7 meet, they only talk about power and profit. We need to shift that to planet and people. We need to continuously keep on asking questions, is it good for planet or bad for planet? Is it good for people or bad for people? And when I started looking at this and writing the book, I realized that we haven't paid enough attention to decentralization, bottom-up development. Small is beautiful. Localization. To scale, we need to network. And these are the issues I discuss in the book. And I'm sure we'll have more to talk, but this is the basic idea that we need to redesign our world. And we cannot take one little item and redesign without really understanding the global design. Because global design today is dominated with power and profits. Handful of people run that design, and we all get sucked into it. And we try to do things within that framework. I'm challenging that basic framework, saying we need to create new framework. How can we have rural development if there is no inclusion in rural India? How can we think of prosperity for everybody if we don't worry about human needs, if we don't worry about sustainability, conservation, non-violence? Look at what is going on in India today. Polarized politics is creating environment of violence. And to me, these are all the issues that we need to talk about. Thank you.
Sam, powerful message. Thank you so much. I think it's very insightful. Complex, big forces all coming upon us at the same time. And one of the things that it's, got me thinking, and I would love to hear a little bit of your thoughts on it, is that you intentionally title your book Redesign. So it's not re-engineering, it's not financing, it's not re-regulating, it's redesign. So why redesign?
I think that idea of redesign basically comes because of my interactions with Patrick Whitney and Institute of Design. I've been on the board of Institute of Design for probably close to 20 years. And I've learned a lot from Patrick and others about design. If the design itself is flawed, then there is no sense in tweaking something outside. To me, design is the core of everything. And people who designed the world after World War II really knew what they were doing. They wanted command and control. You look at today what is going on in the world with Ukraine war. It is all about command and control. Everybody says superpower. Everybody wants to be a superpower. It is command and control. Fear of China is about command and control. We need collaboration, cooperation, co-creation. And that's why I think the fundamental design needs to change. But nobody's paying attention to it because those who are in position of power are milking the system. They have no need to change. And those who have to change and want to change have no voice in the system. And that's why it has to come from the bottom up. Why would people at G7 change? They are having great time. They all meet more as a marketing representative of a country. They don't look at global challenge. They look at what is good for America, what is good for France, what is good for India, what is good for whatever. And that's not how the world works. Today, we are all interconnected. What affects one affects all of us. That's why we need to change our focus from power and profit to planet and people. It's not very complicated, but it's up here. We all want more power. Look at all the leaders. I feel sorry for them. The kind of speeches they give. It's all about power. I want to control this. I want to be a great leader. Nobody talks about what is happening to people at the bottom of the economic pyramid. Have you ever heard of a discussion at G7 or G20 on poverty, illiteracy, environmental blunders? No. But you will hear about military. You will hear about geopolitics. You will hear about deals being made, and everybody's happy, saying, oh my God, look, they made a big deal on mining. They made a big deal on gas. This is the problem. Okay. Plus, world doesn't have the kind of leader world needs today. It is unfortunate.
So thank you, Sam. This was a great bridge to
sorry for being a little blunt.
To connect with your colleague, Patrick. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us this early morning. And it seems like, Sam is talking about redesign and how redesign the world and mentioning, redesigning our institutions, right? And thinking about how our organizations plan and operate. So could you share a little bit on how can design help, with this notion of redesigning how we plan and operate with our institutions, this notion of the world being last redesigned in 1940s. How can design help in that space? Oh, you're muted, Patrick.
That's a great question, Andre. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sam. Sometimes, Sam, you have to come around and tell us how you really feel about something. It's hard to. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what design is. Most people think design is about making things look better, but it's more than that. It's not even that. It's how do we think differently? How do we abstract problems and find the real cause so that we can create the real value, not pretend value? It's to do with overcoming problems people have in planning. Here are some problems people have. People are very bad at finding third order consequences. They can see what one consequence is of doing something, and maybe a second consequence that might lead to, but by the time they get to 3 steps, it doesn't work. That's the problem with not being able to think in systems. Design can help you think in systems, especially fuzzy systems, behavioral systems. The other thing that design can do is help you visualize and make concrete abstract ideas. And those things bring about fundamental change when you think of abstract ideas. In our economy that Sam has described, one based on scarcity and concentration of capital in the hands of a few, we end up thinking of of economies as either being production economies or consumption economies. And we think of people as productive units, people who can add to the economy, or of consumptive units. At G7 and at other economic meetings, people make discussions and decisions. Should China switch from a production-oriented economy to a consumption-oriented economy? I think the question is wrong. People aren't units of consumption or units of production. It brings people are family members and friends and contributors, and we end up coming to a fundamental question: what are people for? Why do we have people? And in the capitalist view, people are for either consuming or producing. I think Jonas Salk had a better definition of what people were for. He thought people should be great ancestors. They should they should make the world better than it is when they came into the world. And you can generalize that to what people are for is being good neighbors and good friends to other people. That's what makes people's life better. And at the end of the day, I think we've got the wrong idea of what makes people happy and healthy. We spend billions of dollars a year promoting the idea that more things will make you happy. And that's not true. We know that people need minimal well-being, minimal income to be happy, but after you receive that, more stuff doesn't make you happier. What makes people happy is making stuff. Anubhav has taken us to villages in Jharkhand, and the happiness we see and hear when we talk to the women in the self-help groups about how they're making their village a better place to live is inspiring. And yes, people need the basics of material well-being, but that's not what defines our life. What defines our life is what we do and what we make. And design can be core at making that happen.
Thank you, Patrick. And I think that a lot of your work has brought this notion, or the expanded the presence and the footprint of design beyond the studio. So it's making, but also understanding the operations behind making, and who is this making for, and why is what you're making actually create value, right? And I think that we've been talking about here in terms of like this value creation for the well-being of organizations, and perhaps more importantly, right, of people and the planet, right, and the natural environment. So Rajni, I want to bring you into this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us in this. It's an honor to be able to have a bit of your busy agenda. And could you share with us a little bit how can India lead this way? Right, we know that these are fundamental questions being asked by great people around us and throughout the world, but how can India lead that way of rethinking value creation for the well-being of people, organizations, and the natural environment?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andre, and thank you to the organizers for including me, and welcome to all the friends who are here. So, Andre, actually, India is uniquely placed in many ways, though not maybe the only place where we can learn this. Until pre-modern times, value was defined mostly in non-monetary terms. Yes, gold and silver and land that produces good crops is of course the backbone of history. But in everyday life of ordinary people, that was not the crux. And we have so many examples in India historically where scarcity did not lead to brutal competition. And I would guide everyone to Anupam Mishra's work on the traditional water systems of North India. Now, why this is significant today is because in the courses of our freedom struggle, we also have people like J.C. Kumarappa. Gandhi, everybody knows that Gandhi has a lot to say that is futuristic. But I think if we today in this conversation, we really need to understand J.C. Kumarappa and the concept of an economy of permanence. So Kumarappa's central insight is that the basis of value cannot be reduced to something as impermanent as human needs and wants of the here and now, because human needs and wants are always in transition. And when we look for a more stable system of value, we will find that it cannot be reduced to money or monetary-based transactions. Now, in the last 20, 30 years, there have been three major initiatives in this field. One is at the global level, the birth of the socially responsible investing, which today has claims over $23 trillion, etc. Though a lot of that, I think, is token. And it has made a contribution. It has at least introduced the concept of ESG in the functioning of the corporate sector. But even its most ardent advocates will tell you that it is very far as yet from changing the world to the vision that, Sam is referring to when he calls for redesigning the world. Basically, it's adding additional value systems of social impact and environmental protection, but money remains the boss. There's no doubt about that. Then the second issue has been the GDP. How to undo the concept of GDP. As long as the GDP and the Human Development Index are separate metrics, we cannot have a redesign. There has to be a composite metric that measures actual well-being. Because the GDP does nothing but measure monetizable transactions. And in fact, it shows a lot of your eating into capital as income, which is, it's fraudulent account keeping. The last is that the original idea behind different types of currencies, which paid more attention to community, a point that I think Patrick also made, that was very well born in the community currencies movement of the 70s and 80s and up to the 90s, and has now been hijacked by this cryptocurrency phenomenon, in which, again, all you've got is a different form of monetization. It doesn't value community in the sense that I think Anirban will talk about it with much more detail. But there again, and I'm hoping he'll tell us something about this, if we take the women's self-help group, which is a kind of a community-based currency, and we still focus all the attention on the monetizable gains and don't adequately have ways of noting, of measuring, of describing, of counting, or at least acknowledging the non-monetary gains that actually make life go round, then we have lost something. And I think a lot of the story of the self-help group movement is showing that. The moment you let the market run it, you lose something. I'll pause here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajni. I think that this notion of, expanding beyond money, right, and the monetization of our resources, right? So understanding that when we are making things, right, and when people are making things, they use a lot of different types of resources, right? They use natural resources, they use their knowledge, right? They use their connection with others and the support with others. They use, now people are using data, right? Data became some sort of like a currency. So I think that there are different frameworks, right, to try to expand how we think about the utilization of resources and how we then the question is, are these resources becoming capitals, or they're being a means of helping us go beyond this economic model that Sam has been suggesting or proposing, right, calling an action to redesign this production and consumption systems. Now, you talk about India being, powerfully equipped, and when I use the word power here is in a completely different context than what Sam is suggesting. Is
you mean it as strength?
Well, and exactly from the perspective of a leadership, of showing what it's possible, right? Challenging some of the barriers that we've been so much used to, and artificially believing that they cannot be changed, right? As if the world has always been like that, right? So Anirban, I know that you are doing a fantastic work in India. This is already happening, right? So the transformations that are being framed and being talked about in this conversation are already happening in many places. So could you share a little bit about this work that you're doing, and potential challenges that arise, you know, in being a leader within this space?
Andre, I think, you know, the issues which at a global level, Sam has been talking about at a microcosm of a village. Those are, again, issues of, you know, a kind of design challenges which are there, even starting from simple things like, you know, how does in India we are now moving towards and you know, designing for India at 100. So there's a lot of conversation happening, and even yesterday's colloquial conversation, there was a lot of discussion around designing for India at 100. But at a microcosm of a village, simple things, even say the habitation of a village. You know, you and Patrick have visited some of the villages in India. Now, the habitation continues to remain, say, during Gautam Buddha's time, the habitation, the way it was designed, it continues to remain the same today. Now, 2 generations down the line, another 25 years down the line, at India at 100, how do we even relook at the spatial issues related to the village? How do we look at the village society evolving? What are the relationships, you know, the challenges and the fissures which were there while India was getting independent, around caste, around gender, around class? You know, the debates which were there while the Indian Constitution was being framed in the Constituent Assembly, several of those issues were never fully resolved. And today what we see in society is many of those unresolved issues and those, you know, those fault lines have become widened, and those fault lines are coming out into the fore. And in all this, I think this whole issue of design and the way Patrick talks about the whole view model of design, I see immense potential of such kind of, you know, looking at how societies would be designed for the future, looking at how public programs interact with the community setting. Several things, like in India, we have these panchayats, which are supposedly local bodies. But the debate of whether the panchayat is the last mile of the government or a local government which takes care of its citizens has not been settled. And unless we look at all these, and yesterday there was a very important point raised by one of the panelists, that you know, what kind of structures are we creating for leadership from the ground to evolve? What kind of panchayat election processes we are having on the ground for leadership to evolve from the ground? So there are lots of these kind of design questions which need to be settled if the India of 100, the dream of India of 100 needs to come true. So there we see a promise in looking at the community institutions which have come up. Rajini briefly talked about the women's groups which have come out across the country today. We have 80 million women who are organized, who are meeting weekly across the country. So we see an immense potential of these women's group, although they have been organized around savings and credit activity. But if you go and talk to women across the country, what has changed in your life? Typically, the first answer is, I was always somebody's wife, somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, but today I have a name for myself. I have an identity for myself. I have been able to find a space to move out of my home and do what I was destined for. So, and you, as you would have talked, all different kinds of we were talking about capital, but the social capital dimension of what these kind of platforms have created is visible across the country, whether those groups have been promoted by government staff or civil society staff, but women have that intrinsic, you know, leadership capability to take it forward. So in TRI, we especially this the COVID-19 in the last 2 years, it has shown that when everything was locked down, what was working? the local communities on the ground. And that was what we are saying, the local compacts or the local resilience groups. These are basically these grassroots groups like the SHGs, their associative tires, the Panchayati Raj institutions, and the local last mile of the local administration. This is the emerging tripod which we are seeing, which creates the local resilience on the ground. And that's where we need to build in. That's where we need to equip them with design capabilities to relook at their society, relook at their habitation, relook at their economy, look at the circular economy opportunities, and so on and so forth. So we are very excited on this emerging pathway, and possibly will require people in academics like Patrick and others to help us in this journey towards 100, India at 100. Thanks, Andre.
No, this is very inspiring, right? To see how when you mentioned when everything stopped with COVID, we were able to this surface and render visible the things that had tend to be oppressed and omitted, and now they came to surface. And it should just review how there are systems in place that are counter to the narrative of power and profit, and they work in a sense, right? And I think that in India, in Brazil, where I'm from, and in many countries, we see these movements of investing in infrastructuring grassroots organizations and grassroots change have been happening for quite some time, and decades even, right? And progress, we've seen an acceleration of progress within the last decade or so. So could you talk and I think that I want to connect that with Sam's understanding of positionality, of how hyperconnectivity is actually changing the way that we might go about things, right? And there are layers of that, right? So there's layers of abstraction at a very global level, but then that hyperconnectivity is very present right there, right at the grassroots level. So can you talk a little bit about that how that hyperconnectivity have accelerated some of these changes, learnings, progress, within the grassroots movements? I mean, we've seen how self-help groups of one village becomes highly connected with others, and then that starts to create new things, create new value. They're beyond the monetization aspects of resources. So can you, I'd love to hear a little bit about that if you're willing to share.
You're asking, who are you asking?
Anirban and you as well, Sam. I think the conversation there, I think, would be very fruitful.
Yeah. Okay, Anirban, you want to take it first?
Sam, why don't you take it first?
Okay, thank you. No, I think Anirban has really hit the nail by saying, what is the role of Panchayat? Is Panchayat a government entity or it is people's entity? It's a very fundamental question. To me, all our organizational architecture is completely obsolete because governments work in vertical silos, while hyperconnectivity requires flat organization with networking. Do we really need a department or Ministry of Railways? No, but we have it. Do you really need Ministry of Shipping? No. What is Ministry of Education? Who do they talk to? So I think the key to using hyperconnectivity is to restructure our organizations. Today, organizations are not in tune with the technology of tomorrow. We use this great technology to do the same thing we have been doing in the past. Little better, little cheaper, little faster, as opposed to doing things that we have never done before. And we don't know what that is. For example, Panchayat. Can Panchayat be really redesign with hyperconnectivity to empower people at the local level to make their own decision, implement their own programs, collect their own revenues. Today, revenues come from top down. Revenue should come from bottom up. Why should government give revenue to Panchayat? Panchayat should give revenue to state saying, look, for giving this service to me, I'll give you some money. Today's center gives you money to do something. The whole model is wrong. Okay. We need bottom-up development. In top-down development, nothing will happen. You look at in India today, the state of all the cities, because mayor is not empowered to do anything. It is the commissioner who does it. So you don't have a political architecture at city level, metro level, or even at village level. So Panchayat should be really responsible for development of that community. They should collect revenue. They should share revenue. But then you need to build people as well. So the people in Panchayat would be honest, sincere. Everywhere there is corruption because it comes from top down. If it is from bottom up, corruption will also go down. Believe me. State should be paying revenue to central government, saying, you will protect us in these areas, and this is what you will get for your job. It's a whole different thinking. But hyperconnectivity requires you to redesign organizational architecture everywhere. UN has to be redesigned. World Bank, what is the role of World Bank anymore? It was designed 80 years ago. Do you realize that in the last 80 years, we have not designed one new global institution of the kind of World Bank, IMF, of UN? We need a lot of new institutions. We need new institutions for global finance. We need new institution for global intellectual property. We need new institution for justice. In India, we have 32 million court cases pending, maybe now 40 million. Can you imagine? Can we use hyperconnectivity to give you justice in 1 year? It can be done. But we are not doing it because the organizational architecture is wrong. So we know how to solve the problem, but we don't have power to solve the problem because they're all sitting there with the old mindset of command and control. The court cases go on for 20 years. What kind of justice is that? Okay. And if you complain, people say, oh, you're not nationalist. Okay. It's all bogus. Okay. I don't have to be nationalist. Okay. I can be humanist first. Okay. I want to worry about planet and people. I don't want to just worry about India. Okay. That's how we will have to think. And what I think Anirban and others are doing is remarkable. But their hands are tied with the organizational architecture, with the technology. If they start from bottom up and take this device to empower more and more people, they can create revolution. And that's what we should do. Don't solve the problem in the existing framework. Change the existing framework. Then problems will be solved. Otherwise, you will spend your lifetime and everybody else would be laughing. People in control would be laughing, saying, look, these guys are trying to solve a problem, but I'm in control. Okay. And all sincere people like Anirban and others cannot get their potential because wrong kind of people are controlling the system. Okay. Today in India, all institutions are captured. Judiciary, police, security, income tax, ED. Okay. Civil society has no role. They've been bombarded with court cases saying, where did you get this foreign donation? Why are you getting foreign donation? All this crap. And scientific mindset doesn't exist. There is no rational, logical conversation. It is all emotional, personal attacks. It is innuendos. It is, hate. How do you operate in a democracy in that kind of an environment? Where is human right? Where is freedom? Where is justice? I mean, Anirbans of the world can spend next 10 years trying to do good. But until those things are fixed, their work cannot shine. So I am very concerned about what is going on in India today. Okay.
So Rajni, I would pass the
Yeah,
ball
I just
to
wanted
you.
I wanted to jump in and pose my question. Actually, it was originally for Sam, but I think Anirban will give us ground data on this, that the hyperconnectivity revolution has another dimension, which we have not mentioned, and which is that it is becoming the instrument for spreading hate and animosity and violent actions. Not only that people get lynched, but that video is shot by the perpetrator and it is broadcast, for millions to see, and that millions applaud. So Anirban, what is this? How are you tackling this dimension at the ground? Because I'm sure that even your self-help group members are divided on this issue, or at least behaviorally. Everybody will not be only benefiting from the hyperconnectivity. So I'm really keen, because see, when Sam did that brilliant thing of laying down the wires in the late 80s and initiated the STD ISD revolution, that was a step towards democratization. Ordinary people who could never dream of having a phone suddenly could talk to people thousands of miles away. Yes, but this current revolution looks more toxic than productive to me.
We can have Rajni, we can have a separate conversation on this. It's a very important topic. But
I want to know how the people on the ground are dealing with this reality.
And then I'll add something from my viewpoint. Go ahead, Anirban.
Yeah. Rajni, what I see that, say, hyperconnectivity. Now, hyperconnectivity is like a double-edged knife. And there is no one way to use a double-edged knife. I was just last week, for 3 days, I was in this interior tribal block district of Barwani block in Rajpur. Now, it is one of the very poor regions. That's the area where the Narmada Bachao Andolan started from Barwani, and several, people who are at the forefront of the agitation started their work from Barwani. That's the kind of district. There, in a very interior, remote part of the block, there were young people, young boys and young girls, which our colleagues on the ground had trained them to use this device to see different schemes and programs of the government. Those people, for last 2.5 years, young people completely unpaid, they are from the villages. They have been tracking different kinds of social entitlement programs, the community investments coming through MGNREGA, the 14th finance, and now the 15th finance investments. And today, this place is, there's a whole area which is called Palsud in that block inside the hills, and there were young boys who have taken the control from in the Gram Panchayat. There are these online help desks which do not run, because there are 3 gram sevaks are dealing with 3 gram panchayats or 5 gram panchayats. They are never in one place. So they are actually using their IDs, creating OTP. The OTP is handed over by the gram sachiv, and they are doing all kinds of online services in a remote interior area. So, and they are saying that now we have understood it so much that we have applied for a Pragya Kendra, and we will soon start an independent Pragya Kendra, which will be providing services to the community. So at one end, interestingly, there was a young boy who was, while we were doing all these meetings, he was on the side. I was seeing he was constantly picking up videos. So then I was asking him, what do you do with these videos? So he said that actually I have a YouTube channel, and I am documenting different kinds of positive developmental changes which are happening. Young boy must be 17 or 16. Now these give hope. So we
Great.
see the lynching at one end, and then there are these young boys and girls who are completely very different from the current generation of the community. And I have a lot of hope in this new generation which is coming up. They are playing PUBG, but they also have the, if directed in a little manner, if we can have little bit of investment, they would take things to a completely different level. So I am very optimistic on investing in such new generation on the ground, which can bring about change. And that's where I think we as people, we have a way of engagement. In the 80s and 90s, when we were doing our development work, we have learned it in a particular way. But today's world requires different type of engagement, different methodologies, and we are still learning. And that's where that's the challenge for the civil society today.
So Anirban, I want to build on that and quickly, combine this what you just mentioned in terms of like, we are learning, we're still developing this, and then Sam, talk about don't try to solve the problem with old frameworks, right? And one of the things that, if there is a fantastic thing that Patrick is known for, is really thinking about new frameworks that can help us, move forward and face forward, right? So instead of moving forward but looking backwards. So I think that, Patrick, there's another challenge in there, which came up several times just in the last 5 minutes, which is about this notion of behavior and where actions are taking. So can you share with us a little bit of frameworks that deal with this behavioral aspects, but also embraces sort of like the system level change?
Yes. In systems planning, we see this a lot in academia. There are fields that have well codified knowledge about what is the content of the knowledge and how those contents can interact with each other. The sciences are particularly good at that. The periodic table, Newton defining gravity, and all of these things is examples of a well-known system. People's lives are not well known, and people's behavior is confusing to everyone. What we do in our society is we use the rules of what we call algorithmic systems where everything is well known, and we apply it to everything. Economics does this to a tremendous amount of harm to our society, where they use economic analysis to understand everything about daily life. They believe they can measure everything. We believe that systems come in two types. There are algorithmic systems where you know a lot and you can make sound decisions and move forward quickly. But there are also behavioral systems. There's the systems of how families run with each other, how kids are educated, how we stay healthy, how we make a living. And you can't apply the measurements designed for algorithmic systems to the behavioral systems. You pretend that it's working, and you pretend you're getting an answer, but you're not. We need to know that almost all systems have elements of algorithmic thinking as well as behavioral thinking and behavioral planning. And we need to develop ways of understanding human behavior and human aspirations and make decisions about them in concert with the algorithmic systems. We mix up the method of doing something with the purpose of doing something. So the method of doing something is purpose-free. It can do bad things, it can do good things. Sam earlier was talking about how the governments are organized by legal systems, by technology, by trade, and how those don't make sense. Maybe we should be organized by what makes people's life better. Maybe there should be a department of family productivity or family prosperity. Maybe there should be a department of not education, but a department of learning. Learning is what we care about, not the institution of education. And the technology should be, we shouldn't mix up the technology with the purpose. The technology should be thought of as the means to achieve that. And you get rid of these silos based upon operations, and you create expertise based on purpose. the purpose of it is human connection and human well-being. And the purpose is dealt with from multiple disciplines and multiple means of making something happen. And so don't make the means the purpose, make the purpose cover the means.
Yeah, so
Can I intervene, Andre, for a second?
yes, we have 3 minutes left, Sam. So
I'll take
the
I'll
floor
take
is
30
yours.
seconds. I'll take 30 seconds. I think what Patrick is saying is that we must learn to do right things and not worry about doing things right. Today, we are hung up on doing things right. In the process, we are not doing right things. I hope I'm conveying my sort of concept. Okay.
Yes. And I think
Let's
that
not worry about doing things right. Let's worry about doing right things. And it ultimately boils down to character. It boils down to morals. It boils down to, other day I was talking to a friend of mine and he said the problem in India, according to him, is we are still in Mahabharata phase where there are 100 Kauravas and 5 Pandavas. We need 50 Pandavas. I'm sure people in India will be able to connect to this.
Anirban.
One last point, which I couldn't respond to what Sam asked, we can keep doing so much on the microcosm unless the larger structures are changed, the impacts will be variable. So therefore, in TRI, we definitely work on the ground. B, we work very closely with the public system, and C, we are looking at working closely with Patrick and Andre to create a design center in India which looks at future of societies. So we hope to have the financial support to start by end of this year or maybe early next year a center which looks at the structural challenges. So it's not only the development work which we do on the ground or the public policy engagement which one is doing, but a whole way to relook at societies and move towards that. So that's what we would like to walk on both these legs rather than only the leg of the grassroots engagement. And totally agree with what Sam was saying, that just things on the ground is not good enough.
And the question we have to keep in mind is, what are people for?
Yes. So I with that, I think I would like to thank all the panelists here, Rajni, Anirban, Sam, Patrick. Thank you, Aliva, for the amazing work and the introduction. We are, as we mentioned in the beginning, we felt very honored and pleased to be here. In this panel, we talk about many things, but one of the things that leaves us with this question of, what are people for, and therefore, what are institutions for likewise, right? And redesigning our institutions that have been created to profit and power for a few, considering people as units of production and consumption, right? But if we expand this understanding of what people are for, going beyond the monetary aspects of this model, we might be able to also expand how we approach value creation, right? And how we understand how we make things for ourselves, and therefore how we organize things for ourselves. I thank you, all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And we look forward to continue to work together in improving the well-being of people, organizations, and the natural world.
Thank you, Andres, for moderating it. It was very well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, all.